Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, my name is Eleasha and welcome. Today I will be doing a polygel nail tutorial, and I will be going in depth on how I do my polygel nails and what to use. So let's get started right into this video. Now for this video, or any set that you're going to be doing, you're going to need some slip solution, whether that be 91% isopropyl alcohol. You can even use 70% or even more, but I tend to use 91%. I just feel like that one's better. Or you can have an actual slip solution. Most of these come with the different polygel kits, so you can use that. Or some of them have some base coat that you can use, but I don't personally like using base coat for my polygels, so I tend to stick with this. Of course, another important aspect that you need for your polygel is polygel. For me, depending on the nail design, sometimes I might just do one color for all of the nails. Sometimes I might switch it up. It all just depends on the design that you're going for. And of course, you need polygel brush, and sometimes the kits come with the one with the spatula and the one with the brush on the other end. I honestly just find that my own personal brush is better. The brush is a bit wider, and I just like the way that it's shaped. I don't really like the ones that come with the kits. I feel like it's too narrow and small, and it just takes me forever to work with these. So you'll never really see me pulling these out unless I'm using the spatula end. Another important thing are the tips and forms. So these are the type of platforms that you're going to use your polygel on that can even apply to acrylic. Well, some of them at least. So that could be either nail forms, that could be nail tips, even dual forms. And sometimes people don't even want the tips, so they just use a natural nail, whether that be short or long. That's also an option too. Personally, for me, I prefer to use tips with my polygel. It's just easier for me to work with. I don't think I've ever done polygel with nail forms. That's just not a thing that I like to do because it takes me forever, and I'm not good with nail forms if I'm being honest. And you'll rarely see me use dual forms as well. I'm not a big fan of these. I just feel like it ruins the shape that I'm going for, and I just will never gravitate towards these unless I don't have any tips or forms and I'm trying to do a quick set at home, but you'll never see me use these on camera. But I did post a tutorial for this, make sure to check it out. Another important thing to use for your nail sets, if you want them to last, it could be with full cover tips, or it could be with your polygel or acrylic. It is dehydrator and primer. Like I said, these two right here are what you need to make your nails last a bit longer. The dehydrator pretty much gets rid of all of the oils on your natural nail, and then the primer just preps. It helps the polygel and the acrylic adhere better to your natural nail, so you'll definitely need these two if you want them to last. And some people don't know this, but you can even use isopropyl alcohol as a dupe for the dehydrator. So if you don't have this in your arsenal and you happen to have alcohol, just go ahead and use that, but you definitely need a primer. If you're doing your natural nails or even polygel or acrylic or even full cover tips, you always need top coat, and that could be a glossy top coat or a matte top coat. That just helps to protect your nail design or even the gel color so that it doesn't get ruined, you know? So for this nail tutorial, I'll pretty much be focusing more on the polygel application and the tutorial for that. So I'll be showing y'all how I like to do it. I showed you guys pretty much all of the stuff that you would need to do polygel, so let's get started on the application. Now before you head in, you want to make sure that your nails are free of any oils, they're buffed out, filed, make sure that the cuticles are pushed back a little bit. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to do any of the extra tips to make sure that the nails adhere better because I'm going to pop these nails right off. So what I like to do for the pop off method, I do a thin coat of top coat and only top coat, and then I just do my application right on top of that. Now as far as the tips go, I'm going to be using these 3XL non-C-curve square tips by 𝓕𝓲𝓷𝓽. And when sizing them out, you want to make sure that they fit the nail bed just nicely. You want to make sure that the side walls are met, make sure that everything is fully covered, and if it's a little bit too much, like let's say the tip spills a bit too much over the sidewall, it's fine. You can just file it down a little bit so that it fits. It's best to go a bit bigger than smaller, because at least with the nail tip being a bit bigger, you can work with it, you can file it and make it fit. If it's smaller, you can't really do much with that. So I'm going to size out all of my tips. Now that I've got them all sized out, I'm going in with my top coat and I'm just going to glue them on. Now when I apply the tips, I usually just put the top coat around the tip of my natural nail and then put the tip right on top of that. Now I'll put this out and show y'all because this is what I use when I'm gluing my tips on. It's a gooseneck lamp. Of course, it got like a little button on the wire. So you just turn it on and it emits the UV light. This is what I use to make it easier to put my tips on. It's handless. Is that how you say it? Handless? You don't have to hold it. So whenever I'm doing the pop-off method and I'm using gel top coat, that's what I use. If you're using glue, regular glue, you don't really need this. Now I just put the tip on like so, making sure that both sidewalls are covered. And you don't want this is supposed to be like a tip. It shouldn't be all the way down here. You just, want it up here at the tip of the nail, and then you put it under the lamp. Now I'm going to clip these down, and just for the sake of the video, I wanted to make it as easy as possible if you're following this step by step. So I'm going to make this set short. I think this is good. Sometimes when I'm clipping my tips, I might not get it to be perfect. For example, this one looks a bit crooked, so it's okay to go back in and fix it. When I'm making sure that the tips are even, I put my fingers side by side, make sure that the cuticles are at the same level, and I make sure that the tips are at the same level down here. And so far it looks pretty good. I immediately go in with my hand file. I file the sides of the nails and I also file the tip, and just make sure that the file is parallel to the nail. Don't try and do it at some weird angle because you don't want to ruin the shape. Especially if you're doing square shape. You want to go with the shape, not against it. And this is what I mean when I say it's okay to go up a size bigger than your natural nail, because at least you can file it down. Of course, you don't want it to be too many sizes too big, but it's okay to maybe go one size bigger. Now I'm going in with my sanding band, and I like to use my e-file for this part because it's easier. I use low RPM, so I want to say about 3,000. You don't want it to be too high because of course you don't want to burn yourself. This is just to blend it out, make it so that it looks seamless. For this portion of the application part of the video, I'm just going to keep it at normal speed so y'all can see what I'm doing. What I'm doing here is spreading out the polygel near the cuticle area. I'm just pushing the beads slightly towards the cuticle area. Now, one of my favorite polygel educators is called Tips by Teagues, and she does a really good job at explaining how to form the nails with polygel. And one of the tips that she gave about the apex was really clever to me. She said to think of the apex as a heap of gold coins. You're trying to move some of the coins away from the middle of the pile, but you're trying to keep the majority still at the middle. And I thought that was a clever way of forming the apex and smoothing out the rest of the nail. So when you're forming the cuticle, you want to bring a small amount of polygel close to it, and you want to do that with a good brush. You want to be able to almost pat into the cuticle so that it looks nice and blendable. So while you're at the apex, you want to tilt the brush a bit at an angle and then just tap so that you have that little hill forming. You need to be gentle with the amount of pressure that you're adding into the brush as well. You don't want to apply too much pressure. And also you want to make sure that your brush is not too big as well, because you want to be able to get in that cuticle and be able to pat the product around. So make sure that the brush is parallel to the nail, and make sure that you're not using too much alcohol, just enough so that you can be able to pat it around. And the same thing applies to when you're doing the rest of the nail. I like to use this dragging motion when smoothing it out. And this is where the correct ratio of alcohol to use comes into play. And when smoothing out the rest of the nail length, it's better to use more alcohol. And for those who don't know, polygel acts just like regular gel polish. Once you place it on the nail, you can keep working with it a bit. It's not like acrylic where it dries on its own after a while. It only gets hard once you put it under the lamp and you cure it for more than 60 seconds. So it's a really good alternative if you're not a fan of acrylic, especially if you don't like to use monomer. I know the smell can irritate some people, so polygel is a good alternative. Also, make sure to clean under your nails. And if there is excess at the end of the nail, you can just wipe it off with the spatula like I'm doing here. And I just put the extra back in the polygel bottle because I don't waste anything. And I almost forgot to add, when placing the polygel, you almost want to avoid that cuticle area so that you have extra space to work with, and of course you don't want to flood the cuticle area. I'm so sorry if I'm saying cuticle area a lot, but I'm really trying to use the correct terminology so I don't throw anyone off. But I hope y'all understood. I try to explain the best way that I can, but like I've said multiple times in my other videos, I'm not a professional, so all of this stuff is something that I've learned through either being self-taught or just, from other different creators. So I really hope you guys end up liking this tutorial, and I'll try my best to explain everything in detail. I even wrote down some talking points because I know that when I start talking, I can get carried away. So this is just a way for me to not get caught up in my thoughts. So as I said before, I placed the bead more towards the middle of the nail. That way I have enough space to work with the cuticle area. I can just slowly inch the polygel towards it without flooding it or making it look really bulky. So as a bit of a tip for the apex, maybe try not to make it as big in the beginning. Try to make it a bit smaller, especially if you have wider nails like me. I tend to overcompensate in that area. So if you're having the same issue as me, try to apply less polygel, or you can try to pat and drag away some of that excess polygel so that it doesn't look as large. And if that doesn't work, you can always just file it off. Now I'll stop talking so I don't talk too much, so I'll let the rest of the video play out. I'm just wiping the nails down with some alcohol after curing them for 60 seconds. I'm gonna try and show y'all how I file the top of the nail. Like I said before, make sure to keep the file parallel to the nail. And I like to do these 3 different types of angles. Usually if I'm at the top of the nail, I just file it straight. But if I want that curve on the nail, I angle the file towards that curve, if that makes sense. And I do that for each side of the nail. And with my nails looking a little bit thick, I do this for a while until I can thin it down a bit. As far as the side walls go, same thing. I keep the nail file parallel to the nail, and I do this up and down motion as I file. Now I'm going to speed up the rest of the portion of this video until we get to the e-file portion because I don't want to talk y'all heads off. Now I'm going in with my e-file. I'm using the sanding band, which is 180 grit. I like to use this after I use the hand file to smooth out the nail. And I use the forward motion since I'm right-handed, and I'll go from right to left in short swipes. And I like to take my time with this part because the e-file gets into certain spaces that the hand file can't get into, like under the nail. And sometimes if I make any mistakes with the hand file, I go in with the e-file to fix those mistakes. Now to seal in the cuticles, I'm using this fine 5-in-1 carbide bit. I really wish I used this earlier. I don't know why I haven't, but it just didn't hit me. But one of my nail peers, Marjolaine, Nails by Marjolaine, on YouTube and Instagram, shout out to her. I said in one of my videos that I was having issues with the cuticle area because I can never get it to look less bulky and it always looked a little bit weird. And she was like, you need to get a 5-in-1 carbide bit. So I was like, what the heck, I'll try it out. So I got this particular one from Melodysusie on Amazon. And so far it's done a great job with helping me seal the cuticles. So I would definitely recommend this to y'all if you're having issues with that particular area. I'll link this particular bit in the description below. And I'll also link the one that she recommended to me in the description, because this works wonders. Just like with the sanding band, I'm going from right to left, and I'm doing short swipes because with the cuticle area, you have to be really careful. It has the least amount of polygel, so it's very easy to get carried away and dig into your natural nail, which is really dangerous with a nail bit like this. So you really have to be careful and not apply too much pressure. There is an improvement around the cuticle area, so far this bit has been helping. It's just, I really need to focus on the application, and that's where I struggle with it the most, but so far it doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to buff these out with my buffer just to get rid of those scratches. So I'm going to be doing this 3D heart nail design, so it's just fairly simple. It's going to consist of some white gel polish. Of course, I got to do the French tip and then the base for the 3D heart, and then some white acrylic for that textured look. So just those two things, some white gel polish and white acrylic. This is so frustrating. It's like the French tip is there, but they don't look similar to each other. Like there's always something that's off. I know I'm gonna spend another 20 minutes trying to perfect this, but this is not going well for me at all. So after about an hour, I finally perfected the French tip. I did the best that I could, but I was really getting annoyed. So I just cured it, did a second coat, then went right on to the nail design. Now with the 3D hearts, I like to put more gel polish. It's supposed to have that 3D effect, so having too little gel polish can make it look really flat. So there should be a contrast between the base French tip and the actual heart design. Now I'm going to put on some cuticle oil. Alright y'all, so here are the final results. So this is my second time doing this exact nail set because the first time it came out it did not come out the way that I wanted it to. The hearts were too small and I felt like the polygel wasn't blending well. It just looked terrible overall. But this looks good for the second time around. It looks definitely much better. But what do you guys think of the tutorial? Do you think that I explained in depth? Is it understandable? I tried to explain the best way that I could, you know, the whole process of the polygel, the way that I do my polygel application. I feel like it's a long time coming because I've already had this channel for what, 2 years now, and I have yet to come out with a actual polygel tutorial, you know? Well, an in-depth one. But tell me, what do you guys think of these nails? What do you think of the tutorial overall? If there are things that I've missed or didn't explain very well, just let me know down in the comments below and I'll try to answer those questions the best way that I can. But tell me, what do you guys think of this video? If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you'd like to see more content from me, please subscribe. For the next video, I am doing an unboxing, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to have your post notifications turned on for when I post that new video. So that's all today for this video. So I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching and bye.